Welcome to the Hearthchemist, everything Hearthstone and Yu-Gi-Oh! And today I'm bringing you an updated version of my Darkest Lair deck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to have still triple Diabolos, Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, just because it's such a great card overall in my opinion. I do see that a lot of decks have it at a 2. I think 3 for me is great. It's, like, tributing is very important part a mechanic of this deck. So yeah, having 3 of those is going to be great. Another 3 of, and this one I do honestly think is a must. It's not much a matter of opinion. Going to be triple Lilith, Lady of Lament. It's just such a great card overall. It's tributes as a cost, so even if you bring it out with a tour guide, you're still going to be able to tribute a card, which again, a lot of monsters or a lot of things can't get over that mechanic. So yeah, it's great. You do have to have 3. It's just a fantastic card. Another 3 of is going to be Arima, the Wicked Warden. I think that this card is good. It's not great, but good enough. It basically is an extra terraforming, and you do want to see your uh, layer of darkness as much as possible because that's kind of the mechanic of the deck. If you are not able to see it, you're going to have a very bad time. So yeah, triple of those is okay. And its on-field effect is also decent, especially if you have Lair of Darkness already. So it's really not a lost cause if you already have Lair of Darkness on in your hand. So another triple is going to be Tour Guide from the Underworld. Yeah, again, this searches for Lilith. It's such a great card. Being able to tribute a card as a quick effect with Lilith, especially if you have Lair of Darkness, this is going to be fantastic. And if you don't, I mean, yes, it's definitely not going to be as great, but you can still get some plays from it, so it's not too bad. So next, double Malice, Lady of Lament. Malice is really not as great as Lilith, just because the tributing portion is considered an effect and not a cost. So you really can't bring it with tour guide and attempt to activate its effect because the tributing portion is part of the effect. Therefore, you're not going to be able to do it. So it's still an okay card. 2 of is okay. Some people have it at 1, and very rarely in these type of decks maybe they have 0. But I think yeah, anywhere at 1 to 2 is okay. So I know that that were the monsters. Now for the spell cards, I know that in my last video somebody recommended me to add Pot of Extravagance, and I did mention that it was a little bit too expensive. Fortunately, my locals opened fairly recently, and I was able to get it at a decent price. It wasn't still super cheap, but I think that it was good enough where I was like, I might as well get them. So triple Pot of Extravagance. Such a fantastic card in this deck. I previously had Allure of Darkness, and Allure of Darkness is okay. The only problem with Allure is that, well, you have to get rid of one of those dark monsters that you draw. And that might be the key cards that you might need, especially if maybe you're risking it or you already had just one dark monster and you didn't draw any other monsters, then you have to banish that card, and that card might have been a key card. So I think Pot of Extravagance is great in this type of deck, but if you don't because it's super expensive, which I totally get, then at that point you might as well replace it for a Lair of Darkness or the other pot. But the problem with that one is that it banishes 10 cards from your deck, right? So you might lose key cards, or, I mean, if you were able to pull triple Pot of Prosperity, then sure, you might do that one instead. But honestly, if you were to buy that other card, it's a lot more expensive than Pot of Extravagance. So yeah, triple Pot of Extravagance I'm handling for now. Now, the key card of the deck, Lair of Darkness. So triple of those. Without this card, you're going to have a bad time if you don't see it. So yeah, having triple definitely a must. And there's plenty of ways to look for the card because you definitely want to see it as soon as possible in order to activate your effects. So next, triple of Mystic Mine. So this is a dark deck, so having it in this card, I think it fits because it's kind of a card that everybody hates. It's a dark card. But honestly, this is a control deck, so you really want to slow things down for your opponent. If you don't have the right answers at the right time, having a Mystic Mine a lot of the time is going to help you out. So yeah, having triple Mystic Mine I think is okay. If you want to have it at 2, that's totally fine. But for me again, I think triple might be necessary just so you are able to see it frequently enough in order to be able to activate it. So in relation to that, I do have triple Demise of the Land. So this is such a great card for both of the fields. A little bit more for Mystic Mine than for Lair of Darkness, in the sense that, I mean, yes, after your opponent special summons a monster, especially if you didn't have any monsters on the field, which is very, very common nowadays, that's kind of the first play. After maybe if they have a draw, they'll do that first. And then they're go ahead and special summon as their first move or first summon. So you lock them out with Demise of the Land. You can go ahead and bring out Mystic Mine. And yeah, I mean, that's great. Also, if you have like a Lilith, you only pull Lilith and Demise of the Land. Then again, you play the Lilith. Your opponent thinks that they have a way to get rid of a Lilith. They special summon, you activate Demise, and you can immediately, well, use as a quick effect Lilith to tribute your opponent's monster. So again, it's still good overall for both field spells. So I think that this is a decent play having it at 3. If you want to handle it at 2, maybe at 1, that's okay. But if you're having Mystic Mine, I do think that this should be at 3. If you don't have Mystic Mine, you might want to consider maybe having 1 Demise of the Land, just as again that extra searcher for that field spell because it's such an important card. And 1 Terraforming again. You want to see the field spell super frequently in your first turn. If you don't have it in your first turn, it's going to be a bit of a upskill battle. So yeah, 1 is okay. Well, you can only handle 1, so yeah, that's fine. So going to the traps, triple Eradicator Epidemic Virus. I think again that this is still a pretty great card. There's a lot of decks right now that do have traps. So either or, traps or spells, you get rid of them. Might be a chance for your opponent maybe was trying to recover. You get rid of that, and yeah, I think it's such a great card. Unfortunately, I did get rid of the other virus cards in the main deck, just because I think that they were not doing enough overall. And them being so dependent on your opponent having a monster with a specific attack or defense is a little bit of a hindrance. So this is the only trap card that I still have that is a virus, which is unfortunate, but I still have them as in the side just in case I noticed that the other traps are not working. So speaking of other traps, triple evenly matched. Again, say you go first, and for whatever reason you didn't pull what you needed, you can just go ahead and evenly match, and you're on your opponent's turn, and I think gives you a chance to recover. So yeah, I think it's a great card. Uh, People usually prefer it on going second, obviously, because going first, there's really not much of a reason to activate this card. But overall, even if you do go first, again, you might set other traps or just not do anything, and then your opponent might do a big play, but you get rid of their important cards and gives you a chance to recover. Triple Infinite Impermanence, again, in the locals, I was able to get the other 2 copies. I already had 1 from like over a year ago. So yeah, overall, I think that it's such a great card. Being able to negate effects, it's a better effect dealer, especially for this type of deck since it's trap. Yeah, having 3 is great. And also triple trap trick, which is able to basically be a copy of any other trap, and it also lets you activate it in the same turn. So it's a great card overall. And then triple dogmatica punishment. Popping cards again. Sometimes it's important, and it really a virus would be better, but again, the virus is reliant on that your opponent has a specific monster with a specific attack. Well, this card isn't. So I went more ahead with having the triple Dogmatica instead. And as a last card, going to be Metaverse. So again, talking about the field spells, having them as much as possible. So as you notice, this is a 43 card deck. You could get rid of Demise of the Land, but honestly, I prefer to have that Demise just because, again, you are able to activate it in your opponent's turn, which is such a great advantage for Mystic Mine. If I didn't have Mystic Mine, then yeah, maybe I could get rid of Demise of the Land. But yeah, if not, I think just like this is okay. So going to the extra deck. All right. So for the extra deck, I do have a lot of one-ofs. So one Nightmare Phoenix, one Nightmare Unicorn, one Barlow Dragon, one Link Spider, since there's there's a lot of opportunities to get tokens which are counted as normal monsters. One Wee Witch Apprentice, one Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. I mean, it's rank 3, lets you dump cards to the graveyard. That's good enough. One Underclock Taker, one Elder Entity, or actually 2 Elder Entities, which is an additional pop with Dogmatica Punishment. And there's also 2 Wind Pegasus Ignister. Again, yeah, it's a decent effect. And 2 Beat Cop from the Underworld. I did get this as a recommendation on my last video. So yeah, I mean, it protects your Lair of Darkness or your any other field, which if you have Mystic Mine, well, there you go. And finally, 5-headed dragon and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Again, these are only targets for Dogmatica Punishment. So that's the deck. Although I also, for this deck specifically, since there were so many cards that I did want to add, and I just decided to create a side deck for this because there are such clear cards here that I wanted to have. So I still have on the side deck triple Dark Devastation Virus. Again, depending on the situation, maybe the Eradicator isn't as good for a matchup, or really the opponent doesn't rely at all from spells or traps, then this might be a good replacement. I still have the Grinning Grave Virus. If I notice that the opponent has a lot of high-level attack monsters, I mean, this might be a great card. It gets rid of a lot of cards from your opponent. The only problem with this one is, again, it's your opponent's choice from their deck or their hand. So that's definitely a disadvantage. But the good thing is that your opponent can't activate the effects immediately after they're sent. So your opponent is obviously not going to send cards that activate from going to the graveyard, which a lot of cards do nowadays. So it's not really that bad. So yeah, triple of those. I also have a triple Artifact Sanctum. Sorry, yeah, Artifact Sanctum. So triple of those. Yeah, it's just the normal trap, so it's easy to find. And I also pair it with double Artifact Scythe, right? So it impedes your opponent from special summoning. So maybe if they catch on until your Mystic Mine strategy, and you're like, oh, it worked last game, but maybe my opponent's going to get something to get rid of it. So now you can get this instead, and your opponent is going to be limited still with what they can do. I also have a triple Dark Ruler or more in case I'm going second. That might be a good card to use as a replacement for any of the, maybe even the um, uh, one of the going second trap cards, or that something that I'm seeing that is not working overall. And finally, one absolute king back jack, which again, there's a lot of normal trap cards in this deck, so having that is okay to have, honestly. And that was the deck profile. If you liked the video, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and yeah, let any feedback is well accepted. Thank you for everyone that has been commenting on the videos. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm more of a casual player. Finally, I've been going more to locals. But other than that, I really don't intend on going to uh, any regionals or anything like that. I just have fun. I've been playing the game for so long, and I still can learn from people who actually play this game a little bit more seriously than me. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.